And we appreciate you so much tuning in to the Temple Hayes podcast on Fire for Life. And as you know, part of my passion is to hang out with people that are on fire. I just, people will say to me, how do you get so much energy? How do you stay so alive? And I say simply, because I hang out with people just like that. So, today is no different, and we even share the last name. I mean, how cool is that? Everybody, please welcome to the show today, Mary Hayes, the one and only. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Temple. I'm honored to be here with you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, and I recall through talking to you a while back. We're building some years behind us now.
Yes.
But I remember us talking about how our lives are shape shifted according to our experiences, where a lot of mass America, a lot of people believe my life is taken away from me, my energy is zapped from me because of life experiences. You and I believe that on the other side of tragedy, drama, trauma, toxins. I heard a woman the other day say she had a BA in drama, and I said, I do too. From
Yeah.
now on,
Yeah.
when anybody asks me what my degree is, I'm
That's
going to
it.
go, I got a BA in drama. But I remember to this day you telling me that your mother died when you were 12,
I was 14.
14,
Very,
and
very innocent, very naive child at that time.
very innocent, very naive, and you were surrounded by commentators who are people who give their opinion when they shouldn't talk, who were telling you that God needed your mother more than you, and that you just deal with it, and she's really here, and she's not really gone. And here we are today. You're a little more AIDS than 14,
Yeah.
um, and and the anchor of that moment in your life still defines the tremendous work that you have done
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
many people receiving the blessing, receiving your readings. I being one of those people um, on more than one occasion.
Thank you.
And here we are now with you launching your incredible book, Enchanting Winds. And by the way, if all of you are realizing and you are joining us live stream, that we're a little off with our time, the spirits have been working with us today.
I Temple, I think it was the mischievous elves behind the scene were just stirring up a
I'm
little,
telling you.
a little.
But yet, look at us. We're not stressed.
Nope.
We're like, we're flowing. We're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is how it is. But I having interviewed people for 15 years, which means that I'm a student of life, really is what that means.
Hmm.
Um, I love, I love this idea that you came up with to tell all about death and to approach death through a perspective of a novel.
Yeah.
And how wise of that. How did this start growing and developing this bamboo called Enchanting Winds, the
Oh,
other side of love?
thank
How
you.
did it grow out of you? I'm so
Well,
curious.
you've referenced my mother's passing, and I really was so naive, just a child, grew up in the church, and it was mostly the people in the church that said, well intended, but the most hurtful things. Because even the minister, when I asked, my mother's death was very tragic, and when I asked, let me just say she was a believer. We were very, very God and spirit based family. But I was concerned about, did she go to heaven? And when I asked him, All I asked him in a private moment when I was there actually having to help plan her funeral as such a young child, I said, "Do you think my mom's okay?" And he didn't flinch. He said to me, "Well, I don't think she went to heaven." This was the minister in our
Oh my
church.
God.
My mom sang in the choir. I sang in the choir. We'd been active members for years. And I thought, even if he believed that, which that's another topic altogether, I thought, how could you tell a child that?
Mhm.
But in retrospect, it was the turning point, the anchor, as you referenced it. I thought, no, it can't be true. I thought the God that I have looked to, the beliefs that I have fostered tell me otherwise, that this is we're all going to be in the light on the other side. So it's what started me on my journey. And as you said, it was just a few years back,
Just a few. Just a
several
few.
decades back, that many. And that's been my passion. I just thought I literally said a prayer the day of her burial that good would come out of this. I thought, this is too tragic for my little heart to bear. Let good come out of this. Now, I joke about it now, like I didn't know I'd become a medium. I didn't know that death would become such a big part of my work. But the prayer has been answered in the sense that I do help a lot of people that are grieving. And the novel, what's fascinating about the novel was it wasn't like I was sitting around with nothing to do, go, maybe I'll write a book. This story really feels like it was gifted to me. It's as though I could start to hear the characters and the storyline. Now, I'm a slow writer and a slower editor, so it's been many years in the making. And I'm just so thrilled that it did just launch a couple of weeks ago. But the feedback already I'm getting is amazing because people are saying it's healing, it's comforting, it's delightful. It's so it has
Mhm.
humor, it has a lot of humanness in it, a lot of humanity, but it is a story that involves what happens when we pass. There's a main character that has gone to the other side, and it's how the different residents in this charming little Cape Cod town deal with it. But I wanted it to be a vehicle for those that are still wondering, still afraid. Can we have communication with our loved ones on the other side? We can. And I wasn't told that. And it took me several years to research and study and find these little people to talk to, find people to talk to, like, is my mom okay? And once I started having that reassurance, and I wanted to spread the good word. But I love this because I think the book is going to get into the hands of people that wouldn't read a, um, a textbook, wouldn't read a self-help book about the subject. But already I'm having people say, oh my gosh, my neighbor lost her husband. I'm going to buy her a copy of the book because I think this will bring her comfort. So it's
Mhm.
inspiring, uplifting, but it's a gentle story. So it doesn't hit heavy like lectury. And people can come away with whatever they believe. But I think when we know about the continuity of life beyond death, we don't ever have to worry. We don't have to have our hearts are broken for a while because we miss them in the form we've known them, but we don't have to keep missing them because we can still have this communication, this connection, this meaningful relationship. So that's it. I feel the story, like I said, was given to me. Sometimes musicians will say, like, I think it was Paul McCartney that said, when he wrote Let It Be, that he just was dictated. He heard
Mm.
it and he just wrote it. And it wasn't quite that easy. It's been a lot of time and a lot of effort, but the story itself, I think, was a gift to me so that
Yeah,
I could.
I was so proud of you when I was so fortunate to get my copy because I'm like, this is 400 pages. Okay,
Some,
because
I,
being an author, I mean, and I have people say, I had somebody say, "Would you interview me about my book?" And I got the book. It was 14 pages,
right,
and I went, "Sure, I'm
sure.
sure there's a lot there as far as substance, but 400 pages, that's
I
a
didn't even
that's
know.
a lot of work."
I didn't even know it was that long. I knew the chapters were truthfully, it's gonna be at least a trilogy because it goes on. But when I first started really working on the format, I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be War and Peace," or this is so I divided it into books, but even this first book, which stands alone on its own, I until it was set, but I hired a professional to set it. I didn't know, and when she gave me the page count, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And if anything, I felt a little better, like, "Well, no wonder it took so long to write to write."
I'm
There's
so
some
proud of you. I
yeah,
I
thank
I
you,
am.
and
I'm just
it's
so proud of you.
thank you. What's been sweet about the people, because it really has only been out a couple weeks, the people that are also reading it, it's cute. A couple of them are like, "I'm sorry, I haven't finished it yet." But what people are doing is they're sinking into the story. They're like, "I'm really just slowing down. I'm cherishing it." I'd much rather have people read it in a slow, steady pace and just feel the heart of what it is, because there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of tenderness in the story. So this is not a get it done by tomorrow book. It's one of those like, "Oh, I'm gonna get to know the characters," and
Mhm.
it's very endearing.
Like my friend Fanny Flagg of
Yeah,
characters and small town, and you
that's
get
it.
to know people, and the small town is Port St. Smith, a little town with a lot of heart,
That's
that's
it.
just really that's just so special, and so you were just, going through your life, and all of a sudden you just started getting this message that you needed to write the book, or
Now, I've worked over 25 years as an intuitive counselor and as a medium. The first 10 years was part time. I was a professional photographer, award winning photographer, and I loved that career. But this work, helping counsel people, was showing up more and more to where I knew I was going to say it's probably close to 15 years now. I knew it was
mhm,
time to relinquish, put the camera away and step into this full time. And
mhm.
it has been interesting to me. My work, in this profession has built word of mouth. I worked at Casadega for 10 years, so that was a pretty interesting proving ground,
Oh,
very
yeah, tell people what Casadega is
Oh,
because,
yeah, I'd be happy
not
to.
everybody knows, and by the way, thank you, Craig, for your comment, and all of you tuning in, let us know where you're from,
Yeah,
and
thanks,
you're welcome to
everybody.
ask questions, we're glad to have you here. But, Mary, there's Casadega in Florida, there's
And
also one in upper state near in New York,
yeah, that's Lilydale. Lilydale is where it
Lilydale.
started, and I think Casadega this is where they wintered. There's a whole little town of mediums in Lilydale. It was over 100 years ago, and my understanding, I think I'm right about this, it was when they wanted to come in winter from the severe weather in
Okay.
upstate New York, then they would come to Florida. And so they established this other little town. It's an extraordinary little town. It is world renowned, although a lot of Floridians don't even know it's there. They'll drive right by.
Right.
No traffic light, no, Jiffy stores, no gas, nothing. And all these cute little houses and one hotel, that's almost 100 years old. I worked at the hotel. I did the seances there for 10 years. I was the only one that did
Wow.
that 2 times a month at least. And then I did readings there. And that really was my proving ground. People had heard about me, and the owner just go work. And so I honed my skill there. And I am self-taught, which is very unusual in our industry. They, especially in a town like Casadega or Lilydale, they actually put a lot of emphasis on certification. They want things to be the way they've
Mm,
been, very traditional. But I'll tell you honestly, I'm very grateful that I did not have any formal any training, because I hadn't. This was not on my bucket list. I'll become a
right.
medium. I knew I wanted
Yeah.
to help people. That was always a driving factor. But had I had formal training, I don't think my work would have been as effective as it is. So I know my
Mm,
approach can be different. Like with you, Temple, it's like if you want to connect with someone like your mom, I just invite them in and they come in. So I didn't know if I had been formally trained, I would be told that was wrong and it doesn't work like that. And I'm like, but it does work. So
well,
so
what's really funny to me is, because, I love to do this show, and I like to do a show that doesn't have commercials every
right,
2 minutes, so you can
right.
actually get into your heart, and, I'll have you, Andrea and I will have you on the show again in the
Uh,
spring. We'll
uh,
give your book a little time, and then we'll have you back,
Beautiful. Thank
but
you.
what's funny is your destiny, because see, you were introduced to me almost like a year ago that you were a career coach. and that you were someone that could really tune into the
Oh
spirit
my
world.
gosh. Mhm.
And this is exactly what went down, is you were introduced like this great messenger, great tuned in, great, and I went, "Oh, I really could use that because I, have relocated across the
Right, right.
United States. The universe told me to move and I have no idea, what I'm doing."
What do we
And
do now?
and I remember like being disappointed because I'm like, "I gotta wait." You're like that, but I was happy for you because it means if you said I could see you this afternoon, I'd think,
Right,
oh, well, she's not that good. But
right.
anyway, so it was like November, I think.
Oh
And
my
you're
god.
like, I have an opening like in February. And I went,
What?
okay, okay. But we had no idea, when we made the appointment,
Oh my
that
god.
because I had no idea at the time that my mother would be dying.
Mm,
I don't think my mother knew she would be dying either. And
mm.
so we're on this call, and I'm thinking we're talking about career. And I
Wow.
I told you, I said, I just want to give you a heads up. My
Oh,
mother died 10 days ago. So if you start talking to me about, running a nonprofit and I start squalling, I'm probably not offended by what you're saying
right, right.
because
It has
my
to do with
mother, my
mhm.
mother just died and I'm not going to apologize, but I just didn't want you to be
Yeah,
shocked
yeah.
when you see me like falling apart and you thinking it has something to do with what you're saying, because
Oh,
I'm thinking you're a career coach.
oh my
And
god.
it was just hysterical. So you say, well, your mom's right here, you want to talk to her? And I'm like, hello, mother, how you doing?
That's I did not even know that, Temple. That makes it even a better story, and I will just say, because there's still a lot of misgivings about people that do the work that I do, I'm even
Mhm.
still shy about it. If I meet someone in the world, I don't usually say, "Oh, I'm a psychic medium." I don't use the word psychic. I've chosen to avoid that because I think people
Right.
think Ouija boards and crystal balls and but I even sometimes I'm like, I'm a medium, but help people with all aspects of their life. So I actually do a lot of career coaching, which is kind of interesting. I had a client about a month ago. She had house guests and she was not going to miss her appointment. Like you, she'd been waiting a few weeks and she's like, so she goes, I had to tell them I had an appointment. They're like, where are you going to like family members that were in town visiting and staying at her house. She goes, it's my business coach. And I said, listen, I've been called worse things. So and we do talk. She owns a business. We talk a lot about her business. I said, well, it wasn't untrue. It's just, we talk about a lot of other things too. So even I'll
Well,
just,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
go
going
ahead.
to say that I have been talking with mediums since I'm like 19.
Wow.
And I'm gonna go on record and I'm gonna put it way out there that, and I've talked to ones on TV, et cetera. Um, and to me, you are the most tuned in and accurate that I've ever spoken to.
Temple.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm telling you, the level that you went and what you identified, no one knew
Yeah.
but me and my mom. So
Mm.
and I'm thrilled, and I am thrilled about this book. We need this to be a movie.
Do
That's
you,
what we need,
I've
and
had
you're
people.
probably already got that in the works knowing you.
I don't, but I've been told that because it's first of all, it's a beautiful little fictitious town, Port St. Smith, and the characters. But even in the book, like the gentleman that dies, the man that dies unexpectedly is young and he's healthy, and it's just a tragic death. And his best friend, he's angry, he feels abandoned, he's lost his buddy. And I think sometimes when we're grieving, we think it's supposed to look like this or it's supposed to be like that. And so I could easily see it becoming either like a Netflix show or a movie. I've had a couple people suggest it, and I'm like, I'm open to that. Because again, any platform, I'm not looking for notoriety or fame. I'm looking for more people to find comfort and healing in knowing what happens when our loved ones pass. It it's just time that we move away from the old pattern of even the word like the phrase rest in peace. Like we
Mhm.
picture them like just resting in peace. And I'm like, it's so much better than that. They're at least
Mm.
peaceful and they're interactive. They're around, they're involved. They're not. So I've spent really the better part of my life helping educate and teach what I believe really happens on the other side. And so if the book can get out there, it would be fabulous for those reasons to help those that are still
Mhm.
sort of like, are you sure? I think it's
Mhm.
going to carry people into a stronger belief, and you can feel confident that your loved ones are doing great on the other side and they can still be very interactive, which is such a blessing.
Well, I I don't know how I reached that place on my own, shamanic journey, or I think part of when I was doing the work in shaman, well, I still do. I mean, it's a practice of infinity and wholeness. So you're a student of life all the time. But
Mhm.
back in the day when I would be with my teacher once a month on an all weekend retreat,
Wow.
and every time I would go to the underworld for wisdom or for imagery or for growth, I would always go through so many cemeteries.
Wow.
And I would be
Wow.
into that awareness. Or when I was in Paris in real life, true time. And that's where Oscar Wilde, Gloria Stein, all these famous people, it's known for that. There's
Mhm.
lots of
Mhm.
everyday people, but it's
Right.
known for being where all the celebrities are. That place is so alive. I mean, there's things singing and there's dragonflies, and I mean, it's wild. But somewhere along the way, I got, who in the world made this up about rest in peace? That's no, I don't say that because that would be, I would never look forward to that. If
No.
somebody told me, "Oh, I really need you to get a grip on death because it's going to be so fun because you're going to go to the afterlife and you're just going to sleep
Sleep.
forever."
You're just gonna
I
sleep.
would just say, "There is no way.
Yep.
I
No.
need a project."
Yeah. Yeah, I want
I don't
adventure, I want
I'm
activities,
kidding.
we're
I don't even like sleeping 8 hours a day now. I'm like, that's so much time. I could be
Yep,
doing so
I
many
got
other
things
things.
to do. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share an interesting story. I think it fits in here. So my father, fortunately, when I gave up being a photographer and going into this full time, I had real misgivings that people would think I became a witch or I was working with the dark. It's anything but that. But I do have a couple well-meaning family members that are concerned about what I do, and I respect their beliefs. I'm sorry they don't understand that what I do is very blessed and very beautiful and very helpful, but in time. But what was interesting, my father, word came back to me because we didn't talk about it, was he was not pleased with me doing this. And
Mm,
we had a strained relationship only because he was not emotionally available. I tried to, that's another story. But anyway, so on his deathbed, I thought, I'm going to risk saying something to him like, "Mom will be there waiting for you, Dad." I was expecting this Hallmark moment where he's like, "Really, honey?" And he actually raised his voice close to dying, like, "We were talking to dead people now?" Like, he got really mad. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I was just trying to bring him reassurance and comfort." Okay. So that was bad. So he passes, and a couple weeks later, um, he starts coming to me real actively. And I'm a regular gal out in the world, so that if I'm buying toothpaste or out to dinner, I'm just a regular gal. So I ask as a medium that they don't interrupt me when I'm working. I expect cooperation, but otherwise I just ask for respect. But my dad wasn't going to hear that. And what was so
mm,
interesting, Temple, he kept going, "You can hear me." And I said, "Yeah, Dad, you can, like, we're really communicating." It's like, and then he could see from the other side, because I think when we go to the other side, we're in what I call the pure soul state. We're not
mhm,
we're not in this human body, which has its foibles, which has its illnesses, which has its emotional shortcomings. We're really in that pure, beautiful state of connection and state of oneness and state of our highest being. So, from that state of consciousness, my dad could clearly see who I was, what I was doing, and the good that was coming out of this. My dad was not a giving man, not not, I mean, I'm not going to throw him under the bus at this point, but it's the biggest gift cumulatively that he could have ever given me, because I thought they would
Mhm.
understand on the other side, but it was the presence of my father clearly over great time that told me without a doubt that they will see the truth on the other side, which has also brought me a lot of comfort, because whether someone agrees with what we're doing or has a limited understanding, I now fully believe, well, when you get to the other side, it'll make sense then, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
Same thing,
absolutely. Well,
right?
you're a lot more kind than I am. I've I've seen how evangelism and religiosity, it destroys so
Mhm,
many mystics
mhm,
and so many great lights and dream builders and
mhm.
things like that. I want
Yeah,
to honor Gary because I love his comment on Facebook. Our soul gets bored with sleep and goes on an adventure to different galaxies and
I love it.
planets, etc. But what I love so much is,
Great.
anybody that's an original thinker that, breaks the mold. And
Mhm.
I just feel that definitely my hat goes off to you. Like, you are definitely, one of those. But it's so exciting, this conversation. I mean, as you know, my book is, one of them is When Did You Die? Eight
Mhm,
Steps to Stop Dying Every Day and Start Waking Up. And,
mhm,
people said, did you really need to put your photo on there? And I said, it's not because, oh, I'm all that. It wasn't
right,
about that. It's like to show that I'm not really dead. It's to
right.
show, because people, they don't want to think about dying. They don't want to think about death. They want to
Mhm,
pretend like it's not going to happen. And
mhm.
maybe if I don't get close to it, it's not going to rub off on me,
Right.
or I can get some kind of vaccine and it's going to keep me from dying, or, whatever. And I think that was one of the biggest shockers about the pandemic for me, in just my own perspective, was that people were so shocked, like, well, we could die. Well,
Right.
we are.
Right.
The question is how, but we're all going. And I think the work you're doing it's so many layers, Mary, because
Mhm.
it is about, let's write a novel, to give a different door, because you're
Mhm.
right, and that's what the publishers told me. Your book is excellent, but it's going to die because it says, when did you die? and,
And it's a
and people
topic we don't,
and and
right.
and people don't want to die. And I said, well, the spirit world told me I got to do it, so that's just the way it is. But so you've written this novel about this, so you're addressing dying behind the layers of storytelling in small town. I think something we all long to feel we're a part of, belonging, community, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But the other part is when you look at just the healthcare industry alone, and how people often play a part in putting their parents behind closed doors and turning the key and saying, see you later, they got you and they're taking care of you, and they don't in
Mhm.
many cases.
Mhm.
We've got to learn how to do better
Yeah,
in our
there's no question.
society.
We need to honor the elderly. We need to honor everyone, and we know that at this intellectual level, but bringing that into everyday fruition, there's a lag. There's definitely, it's not all the dots are not being connected there. And we look at other cultures that revere their elders for their life experience, for the wisdom gained. And I think we're missing out on a treasure trove of great stories and wisdom if we are not spending a sufficient amount of time with our elders and caring for our elders. So hopefully that's one of the things that's going to be revitalized, revisited, and reformed.
Hmm. Yeah, and to bring, some thoughts. I mean, I'm in speaking at my mother's funeral, which, by the way, everyone, funeral means body, memorial means cremation in most
Okay.
cases. But anyway, so people were so shocked because it was a very Southern Baptist community. And I said, I know you're going to be shocked, but I am not going to say that now my mom can be so happy because she's going to be with my dad, because that is so not true.
Right.
Not for her.
Yep.
I even told her, "Are you gonna look up dad in the afterlife?" She said,
Like,
"Phooey,
phooey.
no way. Phooey, no, not gonna happen."
I like it. I like it.
And I think that's another thing of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in real life when you've been with people and then your vibration changes, you don't see them again. I
Doesn't fit
think that's
anymore.
true in the afterlife. What do
Mhm.
you think, expert? You're the expert here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I have spent a fair
I
amount
do.
of time, decades thinking about these things. And really, what's interesting, and I'll just say this, I had a lot of beliefs that I had, traditional Christianity, I was raised to believe this, right? Very strong dogma. And it took years for me to really explore and what I would consider expand my belief structure now. So it is based on a lot of just real life experience and then studying and listening to the other wise souls along the way. But I love your comparison to a vibration. That's exactly the way I see it. I do believe, like I said, I personally believe now, and it took, again, years to come to this belief that all souls go into the light. We relinquish this physical body, and then we go into this pure, beautiful state of unconditional love. All the good stuff is there, which is why we call it heaven and paradise and so on.
Mhm.
But still, we're going to have different vibrations. We're still going to take with us the very essence of who we are, our soul state. So yeah, if we're not vibing with someone here, or things have been contentious, or whatever it is, we have free will, I believe, on the other side also to say, hey, I see you over there, but I'm good kind of staying over here. So even when
Mhm.
I work with let's say I work with someone and they want to bring their parents in because they're both on the other side, I can almost always tell right away the way the parents are relating to each other. If they've stayed pretty happily married, they show up energetically very close, or there's going to be more distance. And I can almost always tell there's not going to be the anger. I don't think on the other side we can have any negative emotions, which is a little hard sometimes to wrap our thoughts
Mhm.
around, but it doesn't make sense. If you're in heaven, you're not going to be angry or disappointed. So there is still in their best state, but it still doesn't mean they want to hang out together. So
Right.
I can
Right.
almost always tell, like, yeah, your parents probably weren't, they either had a functional marriage, but not a happy marriage, or they didn't even choose to stay together anymore. So.
Mhm.
And conversely, when someone like I had a lady when I was still at the hotel, the Casadega Hotel, now I just work privately, but she had lost her husband. And when I saw him come in, when we invited him in, his spirit was so entwined with her that I thought this was her true soulmate. This wasn't just like, oh, they had a happy marriage. And I'd never met her, but I described the essence of their relationship back to her because it was so rare. I think we have good partners. We could be happy in a partnership, a marriage, what have you. And I do believe in twin flames and soulmates and all that good
Mhm.
stuff. But I saw evidence of that when his spirit came in and how literally intertwined they were in a healthy way. And so I thought, wow, I've seen from both ends of the spectrum coming in from the other side. So it's never dull in this work, I'll tell you that.
I have a question that's kind of coming up is because through different readings I've had through the years, and I haven't had that many, but um like my dad supposedly was he let himself go, his body, very overweight and this kind of thing. Anyway, and they were saying, oh, he's much younger now. And I don't need to talk about my dad, and I
Mhm,
wouldn't do that to you on the air anyway.
mhm.
My point is, do you think that I've been told things like, it's kind of done into you as you believe? So, like, if you believe, like for me, I would want to still be part of a nonprofit or helping kids or buying goats for Kenya or something. Will I probably still be doing those same kind of things? And people that think that you don't get to do anything but sit and read the same book for 50 years, will they be doing that? If somebody wanted to be 14 and that was their best year, would
Yep.
they get to be 14? Okay. I was curious about because this is your line of work.
Yeah,
It
and the fact that I didn't study and had no intention to do this, I think has served me, like I said, because I kinda
yeah,
came about this from innocence, not like I just needed comfort myself. I thought, "You I need to know what happens. I don't wanna think my mom, who I love so much, was suffering, in the fiery pits of hell." I
yeah.
had to know these answers. And really as a child, So so what's fascinating, I referenced my dad a little while ago. So I was doing a seance at the hotel, which I didn't do any of the. It wasn't woo woo. We just sat in a circle and everyone had a turn. It was very. You would think it was a conference room or something, but each person was allowed to invite in one loved one. But there was a gal that came up to me after the event, and my sister used to assist me once in a while, and she happened to be there that night. My dad had just passed like 2 months. It was just shortly after, and she goes, "I just want you to know," and this builds on what I shared moments ago. There was someone outside the door the whole night, and the room that I used to use had a glass door. It was inside a building, but it had a glass door. So literally people could peek in. She goes, "It was a spirit from the other side." And she goes, he was about 19, very good looking, almost like Clark Gable. She in military uniform, army. It was my father. Like he
Wow.
always, that was a high moment for him. Like he was that
Mhm.
handsome young, army guy, and things didn't go well. He was active alcoholic till toward the end of his life, and he didn't pull it together. So that would have been a pinnacle high point for him. So how interesting, when she saw him, he was going back to a time that he felt
Mm,
together. So I do feel like, and even with activities, mm, I have sadly had a lot of suicides and a lot of mothers and parents that have lost
mm,
children to
mhm.
accidental overdoses, intentional overdoses, suicides of all kind. It's certainly not my specialty, but they find me. And I can see that in order to kind of balance out some of the hardships here, they're almost always helping on the other side, helping those that are struggling. I had a young man
Mhm.
not that long ago that was, when an animal would cross over, and I didn't know his history, but when an animal would cross over, he was like part of the welcome team. Like, I'm going to help this dog on the.
Oh my gosh.
And this mom, I said, "He's finding such joy in being in service." And she said to me, she goes, "I don't know how you knew that. My son always loved dogs, was always the helper guy." She just said that makes complete sense that he would choose to be still doing this on the other side. So, and there are those that, I'll tell you a real quick funny story. I had a mom come, a woman invite her mom in, and she was just laying on the couch. I don't usually I don't think I've ever seen a couch before or since, and her mom is just laying there, and I thought, "Wow, I this just sounds so odd." She laughed and laughed. I thought, "I gotta tell her." She goes, "That's all my mom ever did. She always laid on the couch." And I'm like, "Well, she's still happy to be laying on the couch." So like you said, you wanna read the same book for 50 years. This woman was just, she goes, "I know you brought my mom in because that's my mom," you know?
Oh my
So, but
god.
I will say most of them love to be active. They wanna find ways to serve us. They'll send us signs. That's another thing in the book, is I talk a lot about watching for the signs that they're gonna send to us, that they're pretty clear. They'll let us know they're around. So, and that's so comforting.
So comforting, and I do think, there's a level, and I believe you and I have talked about this, when people will not allow themselves to grieve.
Yeah.
I do feel there's something to be said there, that you step into the grief, you feel the pain, you don't cheat someone you've loved that has passed, died, transition, whatever you call it.
Mhm, mhm.
You don't cheat them of the deep, deep feelings that you had in the physical dimension. My finding for me is that when I allow myself to feel that, then I get those gifts more and more and more, those signs and, those kind of things. People will sometimes say, well, nobody on the other side ever communicates with me, but it's like, well, have you ever done your work around it? Is there
Gosh,
something to be said for that? Or,
Temple, what you just said is so vitally important. You're moving me to tears. We
okay.
have to feel the feeling. So where it's interesting, it's like, oh, they're in a better place, or they're happy, or they're interactive. I believe
Mhm.
that with all my heart. However, we're the ones left behind with the heartache, the disappointment. Even with my father, like once he died, I knew we were never going to be close. Well, I was wrong about that. We actually are close now
Right,
because he's not
right.
inhibited by his physical ailments, his limited thinking, so it's actually we're closer now than ever, which was what a gift. But I
Yeah.
think in the back of the book, I actually have some reference books and some reference other references. But like one of them that I've turned to for decades, and you may know this book, is How to Survive the Loss of a Loved One. And it walks
Mhm.
us through the 5 stages and denial, anger, oh, I don't have them in the front of my head, but we've got to feel the feelings and it is uncomfortable. And we do tend to want to be like, well, I mean, I'm going to be okay. And what I've seen from my perspective as a medium, how many people come to me, they've lost a husband that they dearly loved, or they lost a parent or someone that, or a child. Of all the deaths, there's no words to describe the loss of a child. It's just unlikely order. Um, when a well-intended neighbor or a family member says, well, it's been a year, aren't you, isn't it time to date again now, or isn't it time to, you've got other children. Again, we tend to not know what to say, and I would advise anyone that doesn't know what to say to just say, I'll be thinking about you, or you're in my
Yeah,
prayers, or instead of trying to offer some consolation that might end up being hurtful.
yeah.
So
It
we a lot of
stays with people.
Oh,
It
oh,
stays
because 'cause they're
with
already in a
people,
raw
and
state. Yes,
you
they're already
really
in a
you
raw
really
state.
need you
Mhm,
really need to own that. I
mhm,
mean, like, of all the things said to me when I had 2 little Yorkie dogs,
mhm,
and they were soulmates, litter mates, never been separated, and one died, and then I watched the other one slowly die for
mhm,
6 months. But
mhm.
when the first one died, I still remember this. This woman came up to me and said, "You're so lucky." On the morning I'm announcing that he's
Mm-mm,
died, "You're so
mm,
lucky
mm.
because you have another one."
Yeah, I
I'm
yes,
like I'm like, and
I s
I don't even I looked at her and I went, "What?
yeah,
Wow, what?"
no,
I mean, it's
no.
like, you're so right. If you haven't read a book or taken time to, there's lots of things on Google,
Yeah,
what to
there's
say.
so much,
Please
or what
please
not
don't
to say.
please
Yeah.
don't say
Don't
silly,
s
flippant
it
things
in they're
because
insensitive, they're well-intended, but they're insensitive, and because somebody's already in an emotionally raw place, it's gonna hit harder. And referencing what you were just saying moments ago, so many people come to me with a lot of guilt that they think they should be further along in their grief process, or that it
uh,
should look like the, "Oh, well, I went back to work after 2 weeks, and I'm still kinda struggling, I'm going into the bathroom and crying, I'm like, "Of course you are. You're in the grief process. We
yeah,
can't we if we suppress it, if we deny it or suppress it or think, "Oh, we're gonna be okay." Just like you said, we're gonna block a lot of the joy and the good that can come to us, but I just feel
mhm,
like those tears and that heavy grief process, it's not fun. None of us like to go through it, but to me, it washes away the pain. It helps wash it away, but we've got to process through it. But once we've done that, then we have that much more space within us to receive the signs, to receive the joy. And we just can't,
exactly.
no one wins if we try to run away from grief.
Mm, that is so well said. Well, tell us the website you want us to go to book an
Aw.
appointment and to buy your book.
Well, thank you. It's just my name, maryhayes.org, because somebody else has .com, so I'm an org. So
It's
just
so appropriate that you're an org.
thank you. It was meant to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good old Mary Hayes and Temple Hayes, and we
That's
are
it. I
cousins.
know. I
We
love that
are
we're
cousins
Hayeses.
from many different
That's
lifetimes, and
right.
we're
That's
gonna
right.
we're gonna make sure to have you. We'd love to have you again.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe Andrea, we could book Mary for February
Aw,
and
I'd be honored.
talk about the month and stuff like that. And
Aw,
everyone, we're talking about the book Enchanting Winds. It's a novel. It's about a young man that has died in a small town that communicates through people to want to be known, to want to be discovered. And please, it's a great gift to give for the any season, any birthday, anytime. The best gift you can ever give anybody that you know that's living is the understanding of dying.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it, because when you understand dying, you
Yes.
understand the passion for living. And
Oh, yes, yes, yes. It's so true.
Mary
We all need to
Hayes,
hear it. Yeah.
I'm a fan. You know, I just think you're the best,
Aw,
and I appreciate you you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for taking the time and
My
being
honor.
on our show
Thank
today.
you. My honor. Thank you so much. Blessings.